Today we find ourselves eastbound on the Coffee Channel. If you remember, our West Arm video started out here a couple of months ago. This time we're going to cover Crystal Bay and North Arm, as well as Maxwell and Stubbs bays. Crystal Bay is one of the few bays on Lake Minnetonka that isn't named for a pioneer who used to live on it. It was named for the crystalline transparency of the water by Alan French, who was a pioneer that used to live on it. Incidentally, French Lake and French Creek, which flows into Crystal Bay, is named for Alan French, so he got his infamy anyway. Crystal Bay has an eastern and western half separated by Bonds Point, which almost divides the bay in two. It becomes a virtual highway on weekends because two of the lake's busiest channels, Arcola and Coffee, are on the east and west ends of the bay respectively. We are now headed up the western shore of the bay towards the Hendrickson Channel, which leads into North Arm. The Hendrickson Bridge is currently being replaced, and that is why you can see that tall crane in the distance. Hopefully the channel is open today, as they've been closing it regularly during bridge construction. We are now approaching my parents' second home on Lake Minnetonka. They bought it in 1983, and though I never lived there, it was my home port of call on the lake for 18 years until my father sold it in 2001. Of course, none of this land was even here originally. The isthmus between Crystal Bay and North Arm was made when North Shore Drive was built over 100 years ago. On this map you can see Crystal Bay and North Arm separated by the Hendrickson Channel. We'll put a red star to indicate our current position. Now let's look at the same location clipped from DeMond's 1881 lake map. Not only is the land not present, but they are referring to the western half of Crystal Bay as North Arm. I cannot recall another lake whose geography has been altered as much by man as Lake Minnetonka has. Now let's head through the channel. On a good day, the Hendrickson Channel isn't very wide. With the current bridge construction, two boats could not pass by each other in this channel. To the left, you'll notice the North Arm Public Access. This boat ramp faces the opposite direction as the one in Spring Park, so if you can find a good weather report between the two, you can always launch your boat on the leeward side of the lake. There's plenty of parking spaces here as well. Among the boaters using the access today, we spot a milfoil harvester. These machines are basically underwater lawnmowers used to remove Eurasian milfoil, which is an invasive species that infected the lake in the 1980s and continues to be a problem today. It can grow a couple inches a day and crowds out the native plants. This machine has a full load and is using the public access to empty its cargo into a trailer. Pretty slick how that works. Let's continue on into North Arm. southern part of the bay is divided into two parts by Boulder Point, which juts out into the bay. North Arm runs for about a mile from south to north. It's long and narrow. At one point it gets so narrow that there are slow buoys marked around a no-wake zone. It was at this point that we again passed a U.S. Geological Survey boat. I'm not sure exactly why they're out here, but they sure are busy. The north shore of the bay is skirted with a very definite weed line. Even so, it's still 26 feet deep here. Look at all those fish. No wonder there are fishing boats here. Let's investigate further. This channel cut into the marsh is a new experience for me. I've never gone in here before. Sort of reminds me of the movie The African Queen. I just hope I don't have to get in the water and pull the boat like Humphrey Bogart did. It just goes to show what lengths people will go to have a little Lake Minnetonka lake access. Now traveling between solid dry ground on the port side and marsh to the starboard. When I approached the end of the channel, I thought I was going to have to do a major three-point turnaround in very shallow water. But once I got the drone up in the air, I discovered there was a horseshoe-shaped turnaround carved into the marsh. Right now my depth finder is reading zero. I'm sure this is because of the vegetation, but still, it isn't very deep here. I've got the stern drive raised as far as I dare. I wouldn't recommend this to anyone with a boat larger than the BT2. Feels good to be back in the open water. Now let's head back to the southern end of the bay. This time we're traveling on the eastern shore of Boulder Point. We are approaching the Boy Scout Bridge in the southeastern corner of North Arm. This channel leads into Maxwell Bay. With the exception of Minnetonka Boulevard over Carson's Bay, the Boy Scout Bridge is the lowest bridge on Lake Minnetonka. Even the BT2 cannot get under it without lowering her bimini top. From 1986 until 2008, I couldn't use this channel because I didn't have a small enough boat. As we enter Maxwell Bay, we find a public fishing pier on the right. Beyond the fishing pier is a public access that the DNR added in the 1990s. This location used to be a Union 76 gas station. It took a huge load off the North Arm boat launch and was a welcome addition to the neighborhood. Hey, it's another U.S. Geological Survey boat. Next to the boat ramp is North Shore Marina. They offer all the amenities, including a fuel dock. Maxwell Bay is named for an old soldier from General Wellington's army named John Maxwell. I don't know if he was at Waterloo in 1815, but in 1854 his family built their cabin on the shore of this bay and named it after him. Whenever wealthy people, and especially celebrities, buy real estate, they usually can keep some anonymity by forming a limited liability corporation to do the purchasing for them. That way you cannot find out the owner just by looking up the property tax records. According to Hennepin County's property tax website, the LLC that owns this lovely estate was cleverly named Kevin Garnett LLC. I do not wish to speculate who the owner might be. We now head north through the channel into Stubbs Bay. This is the only channel that connecting two bays on all of the lake that doesn't have a bridge going over it. Just north of the Garnett estate is this little island. I do not know if this island has a name. If anyone knows the island's name, please leave it in the comments. I'd love to know. You're now looking at Bayside Road. This is the north shore of Stubbs Bay and the farthest point north on all of Lake Minnetonka. I believe it beats that horseshoe turnaround in the channel on North Arm by a few seconds. Stubbs Bay was named for Henry Stubbs, a landowning pioneer and the patriarch of a family that settled much of the north shore of Lake Minnetonka. Now let's head south and go back to Maxwell Bay. As we re-enter Maxwell Bay and turn to the east, there is an inlet here that juts off from Maxwell Bay. It is a minimum weight, quiet waters area, so it's a favorite anchorage for boaters on weekends. The north shore of this little cove is all private homes, while the south shore is part of Nuremberg Park. Grainbelt Brewery founder Frederick Nuremberg and his family built their estate on the north shore of Crystal Bay in 1890. The property was a farm and famous for its tiered rose beds and stately manicured lawns. Their daughter Laura Nuremberg Hoppe acted as a chief horticulturist for much of her life and bequeathed the farm to the Three Rivers Park District when she passed away in 1972. At the will's direction, the house was razed and the estate was transformed into a public garden. The Maxwell Bay side of the property is undeveloped and mostly woods. The only boaters anchoring here today are, you guessed it, the U.S. Geological Survey. A lot of people mistake this building for the Nuremberg home, but it is actually their barn. Along with the water tower situated behind it, they're the only original farm buildings remaining on the site. The barn also served as a staff residence. In 2014, it was included on the National Register of Historic Places. Re-entering the main part of the bay, we round the point and turn south towards the channel, leading into Crystal Bay. All the land on the left is part of the Nuremberg Park. This little inlet to the east of the channel is a favorite spot for boaters to tie up and go for a swim. As we approach the channel heading back to Crystal Bay, I'd like to point out this little pontoon boat on the right. I've always got a kick out of it as it is basically a floating screen porch. I suspect that's what it's primarily used for, as I've never seen it out on the water. The west side of the channel is private homes, while the east shore is still Nuremberg Park. Like the Hendrickson Bridge, the Nuremberg Bridge is also being replaced. I guess the county decided to do both projects at the same time to limit the amount of time that County Road 51 is closed. That's great for the rest of us, but it must really suck for the people who live between these two bridges. The only way out of here for them is to cross the Boy Scout Bridge and head north all the way to Bayside Road. It doesn't look like they've made as much progress with this bridge. These floats over here on the left act as a giant gate that the bridge crew can swing out when they want to close the channel. Now we come back into Crystal Bay and turn the BT2 east. The Crystal Bay side of Nuremberg Gardens is where their house was. Per the conditions of the estate, the Three Rivers Park District had to tear down the house, but the gardens remain and are beautiful. They are a favorite location for weddings as well as graduation photo shoots. Please call the Three Rivers Park District to make a reservation for either of these kinds of activities. Nuremberg Gardens is open from 8 a.m. until sunset, May through October. Now we turn west across the bay towards Bonds Point. In the middle of this side of Crystal Bay is a sunken island. It is clearly marked by buoys. When the lake is low, you can sometimes see rocks protruding from the water here. What's weird is that where we are right now, it's 113 feet deep, the deepest spot in all of Lake Minnetonka. The drop-off from the sunken island to this location must be intense. Bonds Point divides Crystal Bay into an eastern and western half. It is graced with many beautiful homes. The point markers are placed quite a ways out from the shore, and rightly so. There are a few rocks on this point, so don't try to skimp on these point markers. Now let's turn back to the east and visit the Lafayette Club. This 9-hole, 38-acre facility gets its name from the hotel that preceded it. In 1882, railroad magnate James J. Hill built a 300-room hotel, billed as the finest hotel west of New York. It hosted many celebrities over the years. President Chester Alan Arthur used it for his summer White House. In 1897, it was destroyed by fire, and 2 years later, James J. Hill deeded the property to the founders of the Lafayette Club. This current clubhouse was built in 1924. Besides the golf course, the Lafayette Club offers tennis, pickleball courts, 2 swimming pools, and a 2,400 square foot fitness center. On Labor Day weekend, they celebrate the end of the boating season with fireworks that can be viewed on Crystal Bay. This water tower was only built a couple years ago, though it looks much older. The citizens of Minnetonka Beach wanted the new water tower to look just like the one it replaced, and it does. The eastern exit of Crystal Bay is called the Main Channel. It passes Willow Point before going under the Arcola Bridge and into Smith's Bay and the lower lake. The iconic boathouse and screen porch on Willow Point is one of the most recognizable structures on Lake Minnetonka. The Arcola Bridge is actually two bridges. The first, built by James J. Hill, is an old railroad easement and is now occupied by the Dakota Rail Regional Trail, which runs from Wayzata all the way to Mayer in Carver County. The second bridge is Shoreline Drive, or County Road 15. And that's it. Now we're entering Smith's Bay and the lower lake. Hey, you made it to the end. Click on like and subscribe for more great videos about Lake Minnetonka.